Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Samalutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishkam Vitam Sya Om Agyana Timaranda Shagyana Shana Shalakya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Vidam Ujwalam Varatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Nave Bijapranam Devam Divyatanam Suchandavananam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vityam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Yajishwara Shridaram Vanshakopatarubyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. We're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. And this is Madhya-lila, Chapter 4, Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. And we have today with us Srila Bhakti Kusha Ashram Maharaj. Is visiting Soquel Ashram, he's graciously given some time to us from his normal responsibilities in Mexico as the acharya of so many devotees. So I'll start with verse number 170. Sri Mukhi Madhava Puri Amrita Charita Bhaktagane Shunaya Prabhu Kore Anandita.
Which verse you are, Maharaj?
Starting with verse number 170. Sri Mukhi Madhava Purir Amrita Charita Bhaktagane Shunaya Prabhu Kore Ashwadita. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally praised the nectarian characteristics of Madhavendra Puri. While he related all this to the devotees, he personally relished it. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally praised the nectarian characteristics of Madhavendra Puri, and while he related all this to the devotees, he personally relished it. Prabhu Kohe Nityananda Koraha Bichar Purisama Bhagyavan Jagate Nahiyar. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to judge whether there was anyone within the world as fortunate as Madhavendra Puri. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to judge whether there was anyone within the world as fortunate as Madhavendra Puri. Dugdadana Chale Krishna Jare Rekadila Teen Bare Shwapneyashi Jare Agya Koila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said Madhavendra Puri was so fortunate that Krishna personally appeared before him on the plea of delivering milk. 3 times the Lord gave orders to Madhavendra Puri in dreams. Jara Premi Vasahaya Prakata Hoila Seva Angikara Kore Jagata Tarila. Being obliged because of the loving affairs of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Krishna himself appeared as a Gopal deity, and accepting his service, he liberated the whole world. Jara Lage Gopinata Kira Koila Churi Ateva Nama Hoila Kira Chora Kori. On account of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Gopinath stole the pot of Kir. Thus he became famous as Kir Chora, the thief who stole the Kir. Karpura Chandana Jara Ange Charaila, Anande Pure Gosar Prema Uta-lila. Madhavendra Puri smeared this sandalwood pulp over the body of Gopinath, and in this way he was overpowered with love of Godhead. So, as I said before, kheer is like condensed milk. Milk that's cooked down and sweetened with nice spices and offered to the deity. Mulecha de Shekar Pura Chandan Anite Janjal Purideka Pabeha Janiya Gopal. In the provinces of India governed by the Muslims, there was much inconvenience in traveling with sandalwood and camphor. Because of this, Madhavendra Puri might have gotten into trouble. This became known to the Gopal deity. Mahadaya Moya Prabhu Bhakata Vatsala Chandana Pari Bhakta Shrama Korila Safala. The Lord is very merciful and attached to his devotees. So when Gopinath was covered with sandalwood pulp, Madhavendra Puri's labor became successful. And Gopal revealed, if you smear the deity of Gopinath with chandan or sandalwood paste mixed with camphor, then I will get the results of that, because we are one and the same Lord. Purer prema parakashta korahabicha alokika prema chitte lage chamatkar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed the standard of Madhavendra Puri's intense love before Nityananda Prabhu for judgment. All his loving activities are uncommon, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, and indeed one is struck with wonder to hear of his activities. Paramavirakta Moni Sarvatra Udasina Gramya Bharta Bhaye Dvitiya Sangahina. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, Sri Madhavendra Puri used to remain alone. He was completely renounced and always very silent. He was uninterested in everything material, and for fear of talking about mundane things, he always lived without a companion. Hena jana gopalera ajamrita pana sahasra krosha asi bule chandanam magina. After receiving the transcendental orders of Gopal, this great personality traveled thousands of miles just to collect sandalwood by begging. Boke rohe tabu ana maginya nakai hena jana chandan bara bahi loya jai. Although Madhavendra Puri was hungry, he would not beg food to eat. This renounced person carried a load of sandalwood for the sake of Sri Gopal. Maneka Chandana Tola Visheka Karpur Gopale Paraiba E Ananda Prachur. Without considering his personal comforts, Madhavendra Puri carried one mound, about 82 pounds of sandalwood, and 20 tolas, about 8 ounces of camphor, to smear over the body of Gopal. This transcendental pleasure was sufficient for him. So Madhavendra Puri, for himself, he won't even ask for food. But for Gopal, because of the request of Gopal, he would carry a very large load of sandalwood for a long distance.
37 kilos.
Yeah.
Cerca de 37 kilos.
Says Utkalera Dani Rake Chandana Dekinya Tahan Udaila Raja Patra Dekaya. Since there were restrictions against taking the sandalwood out of the Orissa province, the toll official confiscated the stock, but Madhavendra Puri showed him the release papers given by the government and consequently escaped difficulties. Mulecha Desha Dura Pata Jagati Apar Kemate Chandana Niba Nahi Evichar. Madhavendra Puri was not at all anxious during the long journey to Vrindavan through the provinces governed by the Muslims and filled with unlimited numbers of watchmen. Sangi ek batanahi gatidana dite tatapi utsaha bora chandana loya jaite. Although Madhavendra Puri did not have a farthing with him, he was not afraid to pass by the toll officers. His only enjoyment was in carrying the load of sandalwood to Vrindavan for Gopal. So not having a farthing, he didn't have any money. The government had given money and papers to pass with the sandalwood, and to go from Puri to Vrindavan. But Madhavendra Puri, the fact that he had no money personally, didn't bother him at all. Pragata Premera E Swabhavachar Nijaduka Vignadira Nakore Vichar. This is the natural result of intense love of Godhead. The devotee does not consider personal inconveniences or impediments. In all circumstances, he wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Etara Gara Prema Loke Dekaite Gopalatare Agya Dila Chandana Anite. Sri Gopal wanted to show how intensely Madhavendra Puri loved Krishna. Therefore, he asked him to go to Nilachala to fetch sandalwood and camphor. Bahu Parishrame Chandan Remuna Anila Ananda Badila Mane Dukana Ganila. With great trouble and after much labor, Madhavendra Puri brought the load of sandalwood to Remuna. However, he was still very pleased. He discounted all the difficulties. Parika Korite Gopal Koil Agyadan Parika Kariya Seshe Hoila Dayavan. To test the intense love of Madhavendra Puri, Gopal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ordered him to bring sandalwood from Nilacha. And when Madhavendra Puri passed his examination, the Lord became very merciful to him. E Bhakti Bhakta Priya Krishna Vyavahar Bhujiteo Amasavar Nahi Adhikar. Such behavior exhibited in loving service between the devotee and the devotee's lovable object, Sri Krishna, is transcendental. It is not possible for a common man to understand. Common men do not even have the capacity. Eta bole pare prabhu tara krita shlok jay shloka chandra jagat koryache alok. Eta bole pare prabhu tara krita shlok jay shloka chandra jagat koryache alok. After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the famous verse of Madhavendra Puri. That verse is just like the moon. It has spread illumination all over the world. Gashite gashite jaiche malaya jasar Gandhavare Taiche E Shlokara Vichar. Continuous rubbing increases the aroma of Malaya sandalwood. Similarly, consideration of this verse increases one's understanding of its importance. So this is a very prominent point here in the chapter, is that Madhavendra Puri is, under Gopal's instructions, is bringing sandalwood from Puri to Vrindavan. And with the sandalwood, it's a large amount of sandalwood, but the sandalwood becomes more and more fragrant the more the sandalwood is rubbed against the stone. In the same way, Madhavendra Puri's famous verse, which we'll hear now, when being repeated over and over and over again by Madhavendra Puri, increases in its fragrance and beauty. Ratnagana Madhye Chaiche Kostuba Mani Rasakavya Madhye Taiche Eshlokagani. As the Kostuba Mani is considered the most precious of valuable stones, this verse is similarly considered the best of poems dealing with the mellow of devotional service. Ashloka Kohi Yachan Radha Takurani Tarakripai Spuriyache Madhavendra Vani. Actually, this verse was spoken by Srimati Radharani himself, and by her mercy only was it manifested in the words of Madhavendra Puri. Kiva Gora Chandra Iha Kore Ashwadan Iha Shwaditayara Nahi Chotana Jan. Only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tasted the poetry of this verse. No fourth man is capable of understanding. This indicates that only Srimati Radharani, Madhavendra Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are capable of understanding the purport of this verse. We could also say something of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami because he's relating all this. Seshakaliye Shlok Patite Patite Siddhi Prapti Hoila Purir Shlokara Sahite. Madhavendra Puri recited this verse again and again at the end of his material existence, the end of his life. Thus, uttering this verse, he attained the ultimate goal of life. Aidina Dayadranata He Maturanata Karavalokyase Hridayam Tvad Aloka Kataram Daita Brahmyati Kim Karomi Aham. Aidina Dayadranata He Maturanata Karavalokyase Hridayam Tvad Aloka Kataram Daita Brahmyati Kim Karomi Aham. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now?
¿Sería posible leer el significado un poquito?
Huh?
¿Sería posible leer el significado?
Yes. The uncontaminated devotees who strictly depend on the Vedanta philosophy are divided into 4 sampradayas, or transcendental parties. Out of the 4 sampradayas, the Sri Madhvacharya sampradaya was accepted by Madhavendra Puri. Thus he took sannyas according to parampara, the disciplic succession, beginning from Madhvacharya down to the spiritual master of Madhavendra Puri, the Acharya named Lakshmipati. There was no realization of devotional service in conjugal love. Sri Madhavendra Puri introduced the conception of conjugal love for the first time in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. And this conclusion of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya was revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured southern India and met the Tattvavadis, who supposedly belonged to the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. When Sri Krishna left Vrindavan and accepted the kingdom of Mathura, Srimati Radharani Out of ecstatic feelings of separation expressed how Krishna can be loved in separation. Thus, devotional service in separation is central to this verse. Worship in separation is considered how the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya. Worship in separation is considered by the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya to be the topmost level of devotional service. According to this conception, the devotee thinks of himself as very poor and neglected by the Lord. Thus he addresses the Lord as Dina Dayadra Nata, as did Madhavendra Puri. Such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service. Because Krishna had gone to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was very much affected, and she expressed herself thus: "My dear Lord, because of your separation, my mind has become overly agitated. Now tell me, what can I do? I am very poor and you are very merciful, so kindly have compassion upon me and let me know when I shall see you." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always expressing the ecstatic emotions of Srimati Radharani that she exhibited when she saw Uddhava at Vrindavan. Similar feelings experienced by Madhavendra Puri are expressed in this verse. Therefore, Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya say that the ecstatic feelings experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his appearance came from Sri Madhavendra Puri through Ishwara Puri. All the devotees in the line of the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service. Shloka padite Prabhu hoila murchite premete vishvasa hoya parila bhumite. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this verse, he immediately fell to the ground unconscious. He was overwhelmed and had no control over himself. Ashte vyaste kole kori nila nityananda krandana kori yatave ute gorachandra. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell to the ground in ecstatic love, Lord Nityananda quickly took him in his arms. Crying, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then got up again. Premonmara hoila ute iti ute dai hunkara koraye hase kande nache gai. Exhibiting ecstatic emotions, the Lord began to run here and there, making resounding noises. Sometimes he laughed, and sometimes he cried, and sometimes he danced and sang. So, when it says, exhibiting ecstatic motions, the Lord began to run here and there, making resounding voices. So the resounding voice is the word hunkar. And sometimes that is translated as roaring, becoming so ecstatic that one is roaring. Sometimes he laughed, and sometimes he cried, and sometimes he danced and sang. Ayadina, ayadina, bole barbar, kante na, nisarevani netre ashudar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not recite the whole verse. He simply said, Ayadina, Ayadina, repeatedly. Thus he could not speak, and profuse tears were in his eyes. So the verse is, Ayadina dayadranata he matura nata karavalokyase hridayam tvaraloka kataram daita brahmyati kim karomyaham. But Mahaprabhu is so overwhelmed with ecstasy, he can't say the verse. He can only keep repeating Ayadina, Ayadina, the beginning of the verse. And Mahaprabhu He's overwhelmed with ecstasy and tears are flowing from his eyes. He can't speak. Kambushveda Pulakashru Stamba Vaivarnya Nirveda Vishada Jadya Garva Harsha Dainya. Trembling, perspiration, jubilant tears, shock, fading of the bodily luster, disappointment, moroseness, loss of memory, pride, joy, and humility were all visible in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. Trembling, perspiration, jubilant tears, shock, fading of the bodily luster, disappointment, moroseness, loss of memory, loss of pride, joy and humility were all visible in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. Trembling, perspiration, jubilant tears, shock, fading of the bodily luster, disappointment, moroseness, loss of memory, pride, joy, and humility were all visible in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Jadya is explained as loss of memory brought about by severe shock due to separation from the beloved. In that state of mind, one loses all concern for loss and gain, hearing and seeing, as well as all other considerations. This marks the preliminary appearance of illusion. Aishloki Ugadila Premara Kapata Gopina Seva Deke Prabhura Premanata. This verse uncovered the door of ecstatic love. And when it was exhibited, all the servants of Gopinath saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance in ecstasy. Lokera Sangata Deki Prabhur Baya Hoila Takorer Bogashari Arati Bajila. When many people crowded around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he regained his external senses. In the meantime, the offering to the deity had been finished and there was a resounding arati performance. Takore Shayana Koranya Pujare Hoila Bahir Prabhura Age Ani Dila Prashara Barakira. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when the deities were laid down to rest, the priest came out of the temple and offered all 12 pots of kheer to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kira Deki Mahaprabhu Ananda Barila Bhaktagane Kao Jaite Pancha Kira Loila. When all the pots of kheer, remnants left by Mahaprabhu, were placed before, when all the pots of kheer, remnants left by Gopinath, were placed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became very pleased. In order to feed the devotees, he accepted 5 of them. Shatakir Pujarike Bahuriya Dila Panchakira Panchajani Vantiya Koila. The 7 remaining pots were pushed forward and delivered to the pujari, to the priest. Then the 5 pots of sweet rice the Lord had accepted were distributed among the 5 devotees, and they ate the prasadam. Gopinath, Rupe, Jari, Korache, Bojan, Bhakti Dekaite Koila, Prasada Bhakan. Being identical with the Gopinath deity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already tasted and eaten the pots of kheer. The 7 remaining pots were pushed forward and delivered to the priest. Then the 5 pots of kheer the Lord had accepted were distributed among the 5 devotees, and they ate the prasadam. Being identical with the Gopinath deity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already tasted and eaten the pots of kheer. Yet just to manifest devotional service, he again ate the pots of kheer as a devotee. Nama Sankirtane se Ratri Ganaila Mangalarti Deki Prabhate Chalila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night at the temple engaged in congregational chanting, engaged in Nama Sankirtan. In the morning, after seeing the Mangalarti performance, he departed. Gopal Gopinath Puri, Gosairagan, Bhakta Sanghe, Sri Mukhe, Prabhu Koil Ashradan. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally tasted with his own mouth the transcendental qualities of Gopalji, Gopinath, and Sri Madhavendra Puri. Eta Akyane Kohila Dohara Mahima Prabhura Bhakta Vatsalya Are Bhakta Prema Asima Eta Akyane Kohiladu Eta Akyane Kohila Dohara Mahima Prabhura Bhakta Vatsalya Ara Bhakta Prema Sima. Thus I have described both the transcendental glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's affection for his devotees and the highest limit of ecstatic love of God. Shraddha Jukta Hoya Iha Shune Jai Jan Sri Krishna Charane Se Paya Premadan. Shraddha Jukta Hoya Iha Shune Jai Jan Sri Krishna Charane Se Paya Premadan. One who hears this narration with faith and devotion attains the transcendent. One who hears this narration with faith and devotion attains the treasure of love of Godhead at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Sri Rupa Raghunath Parijaras Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footstep. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus then the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, Prema-lila. Thus then the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, 4th chapter describing Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. We're praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Then the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, 4th chapter, describing Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. So all this is being described when Mahaprabhu is traveling towards Jagannath Puri and he stops at the Ramuna temple. And there, the deity of Gopinath had stolen the pot of kheer to give to Mahaprabhu. So, very beautiful description.
Dice que, Maharaj, ¿cuáles eran esos 5 devotos?
Those are the devotees traveling with Mahaprabhu, I think. What is it? Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, I believe Damodar Pandit. Let's see. What's that sound?
Un teléfono más, yo creo que son mensajes que están llegando.
I was trying to see here where it mentioned who the. Sri Advaitacharya sent 4 persons, Nityananda Gosai, Jagadananda Pandit, Damodar Pandit, and Mukunda Datta to accompany the Lord. So those are the Nityananda, Jagadananda Pandit, Damodar Pandit, and Mukunda Datta to accompany the Lord. So it's Mahaprabhu and these 4 persons. That's what it says. Were distributed among the 5 devotees. Must be those 4 in Mahaprabhu. Okay. Now we'll sing Hari Harai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jao ite Vignana Shabishta Puran. H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. Tasamar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Abilas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Korila Prakan
Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Korila Prakan
Anande Bolo Hare Bhaja Vrindavan
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Koriyan
Harinam Sankirtana Ko Hai Narottam Madan
Hari Rama Sankirtana Gohe Narottam
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Jai Saparikara Shri Shri Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Chariyashta Tata Sadhu Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Tilak Neriya Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Chariyashta Tara Sada Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Chariyashta Tara Sada Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Sunanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Sakshi-gopal Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad Ki Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Sri Navadip Dham ki jai, Sri Mayapur ki jai, Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Koladvip ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju ki jai, Shri Purushottam Dham ki jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju ki jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nrsingadev ki jai, Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Kartik Brata ki jai, Shri Damodar Brata ki jai, Shri Niyama Seva ki jai, Shri Urja Vrata ki jai, Shri Ras Purnima ki jai. So the end of Chaturmasya ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai. Shri Bhakti Raman Madhav Maharaj ki jai. Ashram Maharaj ki jai, Raja Mohini ki jai, Ajita Krishna Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Jai Om Vishnu Tattva Mahamsa Pariparaja Kacharya Bhagya Kochara Sapta Sripad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.